So I thought I'd come out to my AI workshop on this beautiful evening and have a little chat about making decisions and whether you should go with your head or your heart. Regular viewers will know that I've just bought an Indian chief, and I'll put a link to the video on why I chose the Indian chief at the end of this one. But I had my mind made up. I was going to buy the Indian chief dark horse, which I really like in the way it's set up, its riding position. I don't know, there's just something about the way it rode that really appealed to me. And I had my order in and everything was settled, and I had compared it to the Chief Bobber and the Super Chief Limited and decided that the dark horse was the one for me, until Indian released the Sport Chief. And that's where we get into the question of, do you go with your head or your heart? Because for me, my heart is with the Chief Dark Horse. That's the bike I test rode. That's the bike I basically fell in love with. And the Sport Chief for me, I suppose, is a more practical, I don't know, probably the smarter option, really. When you look at what you get on that bike, you get the Fox shocks, KYB suspension up front. You get twin 320mm discs on the front with Brembo, radially mounted calipers, upside down forks. You get the front fairing, and the bike rides about an inch higher off the ground than the Chief Dark Horse, which means it's going to ride a little bit better and a little bit nicer than the Chief Dark Horse as well. And also you get the gunfighter seat, they're calling it. So it's got the more of a kick up on the back of the seat to hold you in place. And that was one criticism I had of the Chief Dark Horse, was I didn't have that support on the back of the seat. Now, people have said you can put the pillion seat on the Chief Dark Horse and it will hold you in nicely. Now, I think if I bought the Chief Dark Horse, that's what I would do. I would go for the pillion seat long term. And when you look at it on paper, the Sport Chief, you know, it is the logical option, but it is going to ride a little bit differently to the Chief Dark Horse. And where you're sitting sort of more into the bike with the Chief Dark Horse, on the Sport Chief you're sitting a little bit more on top of the bike. The seats seem to be a little bit higher. I think it's a little thicker in the padding, and the bars are a little bit higher, and you're in a bit more of a sit up and beg position than you are on the Chief Dark Horse. So that's a bit of a concern for me, because I did find the Chief Dark Horse riding position to be very appealing, and yeah, I'm just not sure. So it sort of comes down to, you know, my heart is with the Chief Dark Horse, but my head says you've got to go Sport Chief. Now, as of making this video, I have made a decision, and I'm not going to say if I switched my order or I'm keeping the Chief Dark Horse, but I just thought it was an interesting discussion to have on what should you do. Should you follow your heart or should you follow your head? Now, the Sport Chief is more expensive, but the options I'm fitting to the Chief Dark Horse, being the screen, the quick release mounts for the screen, the locking fuel cap and the slip-on mufflers, are going to bring it up close to what the Sport Chief is retail standard. So price-wise, by the time I've made a couple of modifications to the Dark Horse, I'm going to be roughly where the Sport Chief is. So there's a dollar consideration, and then I'm thinking long term about resale. You know, what's going to be easier to sell? A Chief Dark Horse in its standard or with its a few options on it, or the Chief Sport with its superior suspension, its probably better seat, and its better brakes, and its new fairing. So you can see why I had a bit of a dilemma trying to make that decision. As I said, I'm not going to share which one I picked or which one I'm going with, but I am curious to see or hear what you think. Which one would you choose? Would you go with your head or your heart? Alright, that's it for this video. Just thought I'll come out here and show you my new little AI set. I've got a few different AI sets I'm going to use for videos just like this one, and I am curious. Please let me know in the comments below what you would do, head or heart. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye for now.